Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of ZD Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, ZD and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Mallory Donahue.
And across the table, ZD Donahue.
And what are you going to be doing today, Mom?
I just sprung this on you. I have a feel free to compliment you.
Oh, I was going to tell you that you could feel free to compliment me at any time.
I'm feeling free.
Go on.
Okay. Well, this has to do with, of course, our activity on the internet. It's on Facebook, actually. And Noah had a question he put out there, and he said, I think this is the place to put it. This is actually on the Self-Sewn Wardrobe Facebook page.
Well, it's in the group.
Right, it's in
Not
the
on the
group.
page,
Not on the
'cause there's a
page.
page.
It's in the
Yeah,
group, right?
yeah.
You have to belong to the group. But I thought this was definitely worth sharing. Anyway, Noah was talking about altering menswear, and he was trying to reproduce a flat felt seam. I guess he was doing it, but he was like, "Oh, it's so much trouble." And you said something about making a mock or faux or quasi type, seam. And he seemed a little hesitant, and we continued to have this thread, and we're talking through it. And you said, well, you could overcast and then top stitch. And I didn't think maybe wasn't getting what overcast meant. And I said, serge it. Well, he doesn't have a serger. So then he said, well, yeah, I've done that, but maybe it doesn't look very professional. And I do this for other people, for my friends, and I want it to look nice on the inside. And, I thought, he might be overcasting with his sewing machine, but it's not looking good for him.
Well, and he said that it wasn't clear. I don't think he has a serger, but he said that he had access to a serger.
He said he just had gotten access, and he had been doing it. It didn't.
Right.
But, what I thought is maybe it wasn't looking good because he was using his overcast stitch on his sewing machine, but maybe he was not incorporating the overcast foot with it.
Right.
Which makes it do what it's supposed to do and makes it look how it's supposed to look, which is spread out and nice and flat and not tunneled. And it turned out he was having a tunneling problem.
Right.
Okay. And you were so quick on the draw that you said, and I can make a video. So you did a live video for that. And I think you totally impressed Noah and made him feel fantastic. And, many other people in that group were happy to know that I think we could answer something that quickly. Plus even figure out what was going on with them.
Yeah, well, I think maybe this is a good episode to actually address another question that came up in that thread. And that's the difference between the overcasting foot and the blind hem foot.
They are different.
Yeah, and so that question was asked by Anne, and actually she's local. Met her and her boys quite a few times, and she does have a serger, but she said something else when I was clarifying. Noah asked about the blind hem versus
But you
the
didn't say
overcasting.
thank you for the compliment.
Oh, thank you for the compliment.
All right.
But then Anne said something really great, and she said, sometimes I think the sewing failures are all because of me, but then you're showing me that sometimes it can be because of the equipment.
Right. Or to put it back on the person.
Right.
It's your failure to know what your machine will do. Yeah.
Right. And so I said,
I don't know if that's a failure, but
sure,
just not the knowledge.
But no, she's totally right. Like, you've got your best intentions trying to do this technique, overcasting, but maybe in your instruction it's been left out that it works best with this foot.
And it may say you have this overcasting stitch in your instruction booklet, and it may say you have this overcasting foot, and no one's told you to use them together.
Right. Especially, in the video I was doing this on the Baby Lock Unity, which is a pretty fancy pants machine.
Right.
And when you choose the stitch, it on the screen
it will tell you what number or what letter foot, or show you a picture of the foot.
It suggests the foot.
Right.
So that's nice, but that doesn't happen on every machine.
No, it doesn't.
So Anne said that, and I just think that if we can empower people to know how to be successful, everybody's going to like to sew better.
So I'm just I'm complimenting you
Yeah.
because that is what that has been my mission in life, is to get people to use their equipment to the utmost.
Well, Mom, you just feel free to compliment me anytime.
I'm just doing it over and over again.
Great.
I mean, so we can educate the world.
Sure.
I love it.
So we did an episode. I'd highly recommend, if you're listening to this and you're a new listener, to go back and listen to our episode about about the edge joining foot.
Because that's another foot that people go,
thing.
oh, that looks just like my
Blindhem
foot, and it's not.
But we won't go into that because we already recorded an episode on it. But let's talk about the Blindhem foot versus the overcasting foot.
Okay.
And those are 2 feet that I think almost always come with a machine. They're like even the most basic machine we sell comes with those feet.
Right.
I have seen machines that don't come with like any other feet. It does exist.
Well, that's true.
But these 2 are super duper common. So let's start out with a description of the overcasting foot.
Well, the overcasting foot may look very much, it's a full-size foot, and it has a little slot in the middle where, that goes, what do I want to say?
It's the full swing of the needle.
Full swing, thank you. It's a good way
Yeah.
to describe it. The full swing of the needle, because the stitch you're going to use with it has basically a zigzag incorporated with it.
Right.
It's like a straight stitch zig over kind of thing. So it looks like that, but there is it looks just like a pin or part of a needle.
I like to call it a pin.
Yeah, I call it a pin, and it's right down, goes across that full swing. You'll see it in there.
It's in your stitch area.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what it really is it functions as what we call a stitch finger, because as that needle swings over that pin or stitch finger, it keeps that thread in place and doesn't allow it to be pulled up or pulled back when the needle swings back. And therefore, that fabric will stay nice and flat and supple and not have that tunneling.
So
I hope everybody knows what we mean by tunneling, and it's basically that the fabric is being pulled together, and you wind up with this little tunnel down it.
I bet they know.
I bet everybody's done it.
Yeah,
and that foot hasn't always been alive and well, and that might be why some people don't know why it is. We didn't have that when I was learning to sew 50-something years ago.
50 million
and so when you zigzagged your seam allowances, you did get tunneling, and that's why a lot of people didn't like to zigzag.
Yeah. So that pin that goes up through the foot,
right.
It also, there's a little guide that comes out the front of the foot.
Yes,
the
there
part
is.
Toward you.
There is.
So you feed your fabric under this foot. You feed the edge,
and that
along
little guide makes a little wall.
That's right. It's a physical barrier.
Right.
And really, if you're like, I don't have baby locks, and ZD and Mallory sell baby locks, this is how this foot works just about on every brand.
Right. And
really,
I'm pretty sure you can probably buy this foot generically.
Yeah, and it's a pretty universal function.
Right.
Now, so the fact that this pin and this guide exist, it really means that this foot is associated with a specific stitch. And this is where you do need to look in your owner's manual.
Right.
And it should say, like, this is an overcasting stitch, If you have an electronic machine, when you choose the overcasting stitch,
right,
like your width and length are preset.
Right.
So the needle is going
and
to...
probably somewhere an indicator of your foot and its number or its letter or something, or a picture of it sometimes.
But the width of your stitch, it's going to make it so the needle doesn't hit that pin.
That's right.
But if you have a mechanical machine, you really need to look at that owner's manual, because it'll tell you something like choose stitch C,
right,
and then set your width accordingly, or choose a zigzag stitch, but it must be this width.
Right. And anytime you are on a mechanical machine and you're trying to avoid something like that, you need to hand roll,
Good
take
idea.
that flywheel and hand roll through it and see if you're hitting something.
Yep.
I mean, probably your needle's only going to break and fly around, and hopefully it doesn't hit you in the eyeball or something. But what you don't want it to do is get your timing off on your machine if it really hits hard or something.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You can...
I mean, you can do a terrible job of screwing your machine up by just not hand walking, using your flywheel on your machine and going through the motion and seeing a full stitch pattern.
And you might have a couple of different overcasting stitches.
Yes.
You might have overcasting stitches and that are good for knits and good for wovens.
Right.
If you do have a mechanical machine, you probably just have one. I mean, I guess I'm not, absolutely certain.
Well,
but,
and a lot of times in the mechanical, you'll have that S.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be it'll say S on the dial, and
Or
then
SS.
SS, and you'll see some stitches. That means they're stretch stitches. So those are your stitches that are, explicitly for knits. Now, not that we haven't used them other places, but that, they will work with your knit, and they can be stretched out, and they will, have the memory to come back without popping.
And this is what somebody asked in the comments on the video. They were like, "Oh, I've had trouble with this on knits. Would this help?" And I said, "It'll help."
Right.
But I still think that if you just try to zigzag on the edge of some woven fabric, you're going to get tunneling. And if you incorporate this overcasting foot and the overcasting stitch, you're going to get a lot better result. But still on knit, really the best results. I mean, the most carefree result you can get is with a serger.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
and the other thing you might want to think about, if this is about just finishing the knit seam edge, it's not going to ravel. That's absolutely for looks only.
You're totally correct, Mom. Yeah. It's a good point.
Right, I mean, and if you're making this for a 2-year-old that's going to wear these pants for 3 months and probably wear them out and be thrown away, don't worry about overcasting
You're
those
totally
babies.
right. Yeah, if you've put it together
Yeah.
with a stretchy stitch and you got and knits are normally soft. It's not like that raw edge is like kind of bug.
Right.
Somebody,
Well, and hopefully you've cut a nice slice,
Sure.
Through the fabric, and it's pretty.
The one thing I did wrong in our video was I got this lightweight rayon.
And I have criticized not only Mallory for the should I say criticize, but I have pointed out.
It's fine.
And I have pointed out this and Sam knew you were going to get in trouble for that.
If anybody has any room to criticize, it's you. I mean, you've got the experience. You can do it. I'm not.
Well, I'm not criticizing. I'm building your skills.
Yes, exactly. So I went over to we got bolts of fabric, and we have this bolt of this rayon. Pretty flowery fabric, and it's really lightweight. So I wanted to show the overcasting foot on this,
especially on the lightweight, because that's when you get the tunneling. Is the lighter the weight, the more that it tunnels.
Yeah, exactly. So I got this lightweight, and I just tore it, and I was like, "Okay, Becca, this is a live video I want to do." And your other daughter was at the shop with her 2 sons, right? And I was just like, "Oh my, when are they gonna start going like nuts and singing?"
It was their fault.
Hamilton, it's all their fault. Yeah, basically. So I just started overcasting on the torn edge, and the torn edge of fabric is
fuzzy.
It's fuzzy.
It has pokies.
Mm-hmm. It would have been better for me to have a cut edge, and you'll have a cut edge when you're making garments.
Right. And if you have a cut edge, it's for Noah.
Right.
Noah,
Mm-hmm.
it will look more professional.
Yes, it'll look more, but it even looked okay.
Right.
On the fuzzy
and
edge.
and another thing that I don't know if we told him or not, but when he goes to, he's going to overcast both of those layers together, because you were overcasting one layer.
Right.
And I believe what you meant is to take those 2 layers, overcast them together, put them to the side, and top stitch, and you'll get a faux fell seam.
Yeah, exactly,
right.
exactly. And I was kind of thinking about that. I was like, oh, should I put 2 of these layers together?
Right.
Da, da, da. And
I think your point was there's a foot for this, and it makes it pretty.
And a lot of people,
right?
I was surprised, and this might come across as like, I don't mean to sound mean here. I was surprised at how many people didn't know about this foot.
I was too.
And not like, I guess I just thought it was a little more common knowledge than it actually is.
Well, and I think sometimes, and this isn't anything, when the expert is teaching the novice.
Yeah.
They've learned so much, and there's so much in their head and so many experiences that sometimes they forget the little simple thing. That's why the novice needs to ask the question.
Yep.
It might not be coming across.
Right.
Well, and another thing is we use different language sometimes, even when we, in that thread, it took us a while to get to
the
what his issue might be.
the root of the
And one reason I knew the root of his problem is I have seen people do that before.
yeah,
And be dissatisfied. And I said, oh, here we go. We
and
fix it this way.
Actually, Becca was talking about, she was like, oh man, that seems like such a complicated task. And I was like, Mom and I have helped a lot of people do stuff like this.
Well,
You know,
I think, yeah. And I think what it is we can tell you how to do it because we've already screwed it up.
Well,
we made the big mistake.
what are you talking
Believe
about?
me,
No.
there's a lot of stuff in the trash or recut that, nobody ever saw where I was like, how did I make this look so awful?
Absolutely, it's in the trash for sure.
Right.
Or it looks better.
Sometimes
it's
they
in the trash.
recut it.
But like somebody,
Right.
I think I've mentioned this before. They're like, I hang up all of my mistakes on the wall because of blah. And I'm like,
Not me. I hide mine.
too busy for that. No,
I don't need to feel like that.
No, yeah, I don't need to remember that. I mean, I
Nobody
remember
needs to remind me that I'm not perfect.
Before we
'cause
move on to the Blindhem
Yeah.
foot, I have a funny story about flat felling a seam. Dr. Frank, our introduction guy on this podcast, T-Bob, he came in and he went to redo a flat felled seam on the back of his pants. So we took it apart and did all this stuff. And we got all the way to the end and I folded it the wrong way. So we had just a little raw edge
So the
on the
expert.
bottom of the crotch. And he was still, he's a very nice person, said, he was like, no, I learned so much by taking these pants apart, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And then I have another flat felt seam story that I just remembered.
My goodness, Mallory.
I know. Sewing Steve came into town.
Noah, are you listening
Yeah,
to
no.
what you've made happen?
Right. So, Sewing Steve came into town. He's my husband's friend. Sold him a sewing machine, and his name's Steve.
He's also known as Uncle Esteban.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, he came into town and he wanted to take up a pair of jeans, and he just needed them taken up like an inch or something in the back, and we just folded the seam
Right,
over
and top stitch
it. Now we had to take out that bulk at the yoke.
Yeah.
And
Right,
we
where
did
the
have
band
to take
was.
apart the waistband a
Right.
little bit. But it was basically the whole thing was being like, Steve, you do not want to get into this mess.
Right.
Basically you should just make yourself a new pair of jeans,
Right.
And it was like, just fold this flat felt seam over. So it is a super common request, but I'm glad Noah asked the question, and it's super fun. And if you want to be part of the Self Sewn Wardrobe group, go on Facebook and type in Self Sewn the Self Sewn Wardrobe. You'll see a Facebook page, and you'll also see a closed group. So request to join the group. And now I think it's time for a little word from today's sponsor.
Hey, Mal.
Hey, Mom.
I heard you were easy.
Oh no!
What does that mean?
No, it means what you really heard was, wow, Mallory, your easy tee looks so good on you.
Oh,
Yes.
I should have known
If
that it was
you're-
something about something you made.
Like you said, you're getting into your golden years. Sometimes, mishearing things. It happens.
No, you're
right?
the one that mishears things. I know this. You make lapel pins about it.
Okay, so I am currently wearing an Easy Tee, and I wear them all the time. The Easy Tee is a semi-fitted short sleeve t-shirt made out of a woven fabric, and you draft the Easy Tee to fit your measurements by taking the Easy Tee class.
Well, how do I take this class?
It's an online class that you can watch anytime on sewhere.com. To purchase the class, go to sewhere.com/EasyT. That's just EASYT.
Is this on my computer?
It's on your computer. It's on your phone. It's on your iPad. The class is divided up into short, easily consumable segments, some of which you may not ever need to watch ever again, but some of which you might want to revisit. So you have the ability to mark lessons as completed and also to star lessons, so you can go back and revisit the ones that are most important to you.
And I can vouch, Mallory's Easy Tee is a lot easier than Mallory is.
Once again, go to sewhere.com/EasyT to begin your pattern drafting journey. Sewing out loud. All right. Well, those people in that commercial certainly knew what they were talking about.
Oh,
don't you think so?
absolutely. Who hired them?
I don't know.
Wonder how much they're getting paid to do that.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the Blindhem foot. because
Because we want to.
Because we want to, and we haven't done a foot
And-
podcast
well,
in a while.
and people, when we brought up the overcast foot, people brought up that their blind hem foot looked like that too.
And they said, "Oh, that's the foot I used to do blind hems."
And the reason it looks like that,
Uh-huh.
or it looks similar, and I believe the reason they think it looks similar is because of that little wall, that little divider that's on there, that little guide that you use. And it's just, a little piece of like metal flashing that looks like it's in there. And I think that's what they're seeing with the similarity.
Yeah, so a blind hem foot, if we just cover the difference, the blind hem foot has this, like Mom described it as a wall. It literally is. It looks like a ribbon of metal standing up on its thin end. So it's much taller. The guide has a little spring generally on it.
Yeah, it kind of feels springy.
Whereas the overcasting foot literally has a pin. It looks like a
Right.
little needle.
There's a wall in the front of the foot where you're feeding, and then there is a pin in the back. And you know why that wall is there as a guide? And this is something we should bring up, and I think we do all the time, but I'd love to, these are the things I like to reinforce, that sometimes if you haven't sewn for a while, you might forget or something like that, but that wall is there as a guide, and that's where you need to guide your fabric. And you don't need to be looking at your needle going up and down.
You watch your guide.
Watch your guide and watch your fabric. If you watch your needle going up and down, your eyeballs are going up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly when people can't sew a straight line, they're watching something that's moving. You need to watch something that's steady.
Yep, stationary, exactly.
Right.
So a blind hem foot has that little wall, and it also, everybody, has a certain stitch.
Yes.
Associated with it.
It does.
It's actually backwards of the overcasting
Exactly.
stitch.
It is kind of.
Okay, overcasting stitch, if everyone closes their eyes, don't close your eyes if you're driving, but it'll straight stitch down, an overcasting stitch will straight stitch down the left side, and it'll jump over to the right.
Exactly.
And wrap around your fabric, wrap around that little pin. The blind hem foot, it'll stitch over on the right, and then every once in a while, jump over to the left and take a bite out of.
It's taking a bite out of
crime.
the body of the
the
not
garment.
the piece of the hem, but the body of the garment.
The body of the garment. And so with a blind hem, you'll see a very confusing illustration in your in your owner's manual.
People really do, for some reason, seem to have a lot of trouble with this, and we need to make a video because it's not hard.
It isn't hard. And I do want to say sometimes people overcast and then blind hem.
Yes,
the same hem.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
sure,
these feet
because they finish the end of their hem, right?
Yeah, these feet can work in tandem.
Right.
But what happens is with a blind hem, what you should be looking at is the wrong side of your fabric, the inside of your garment, okay? And then your fabric is folded back on itself, right sides together, and then wrong sides together again. So, guys, if you were...
No.
Yep.
It's wrong sides together and then right sides together.
What did I say?
I think you said
no,
right.
it's right sides together. You turn it up, right sides together. Yeah. Well, I'm just going backwards from you.
Yes, you well, you fold your hem up.
You're right.
Right?
Of course you're right.
Wrong
Yes.
sides together.
Wrong sides together.
And then you fold it back. You keep that hem in, and then you're bringing that hem back up to right sides together.
Yep. You fold your hem up, and then you take the body of your garment and fold it away.
Right.
Yeah. And if you look at it, like if you were to look at a cross section, look at it straight on, what letter is it, Mom?
It's a Z.
It's a Z.
Or it's that ribbon candy that people have at Christmas. You have it looks like that.
It's a Z. And so you have on your left side of your foot, you have 1, 2, 3 layers of fabric.
Yes.
Okay. And on the right side, you have 1, or sometimes people fold that over too, though. Do you ever do that?
If I fold that over, I have stitched it into a fold.
Okay. So you've got 1 or 2 layers over on your right. But on your right, that's where your machine's going to be straight stitching.
Right.
And every I don't know, is it the same on every machine? Every 4th, 5th stitch?
I don't know, but it is about every 4th stitch, 5th stitch, I would say.
Yeah, so every 4th or 5th stitch.
Now, what you can do, to get those.
Oh, sure.
So every, I'm talking over Mallory, but every 5th stitch or 4th stitch, what it does, so it's straight, 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 and then it jumps over to the left. Jumps over to the left. We're standing, we're doing this opposite of each other.
Yeah.
It jumps over to the left and should be taking a tiny bite.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
out of, that piece of garment that is going to be public.
Yeah, the needle ideally should almost go like halfway into the body of the fabric, almost like it just grabs onto one little fiber.
I say it should be taken 2 threads.
Yeah,
out
threads,
of the 2 fibers,
yes,
2 threads
2
out of the
fibers.
fabric.
Right, and so
Right.
it's something that you do kind of want to test a little bit. It works. You can get a really satisfactory result on like a very nice wool.
Something that's kind of bulky or
spongy,
tweedy.
yeah,
You can-
tweedy.
something with, it's harder on something that's like a fine cotton fabric.
Yeah.
And I don't, that's not the kind of hem I usually put on
Right.
those things
Yeah,
anyway.
a blind hem isn't always appropriate for everything. But
Right.
I'll tell you what, I did that. I made a poncho from the Magic Pattern Book, which also has been talked about a lot in the Self-Sewn Wardrobe group. And I did a poncho, and I made it out of this wool tweed.
Right.
And I just felt like a blind hem, a rock star. Because
Right, it's rockstar blind hemming. You're right.
And I also matched my thread to
Right.
my fabric. And so
Right.
you just couldn't see it at all. And I caught it the whole time. Biggest problem with the blind hem, well, I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of the problems you can deal with a blind hem is actually not even catching your fabric if you don't have that fold pushed all the way over to the guide.
And again, this is another thing where you want to take the fabric you're using
Yep.
and you want to test it.
Yep.
You want to test, are you using the right color of thread? Are you using the right needle? Are you is your fold okay? All those things so that you get, you're not taking stitches out on, the project or garment that you're working on.
And I had somebody who was like, "Oh, I don't care what the blind hem looks like. These are like curtains that are going somewhere or something." And it was okay that the bite was so big. And I was like, then just straight stitch them.
Well, and the
then
other
just
thing
top
that
stitch
can
'em.
happen
I don't
too
know.
is if the bite's too big, you can get a pucker.
Yeah.
And that's obvious. It's not that you're seeing the stitch, but you have a big pucker in them.
I'll just be honest though, blind hemming is not like my favorite thing to do.
Right. And
It's
I
not
blind
for
hem
fun.
a whole bunch on my blind hemmer machine. So
that's
there is a
Yeah.
specific home machine
Mm-hmm.
that is made by the company that makes our Baby Luck sergers. And it is that's all it does is a blind hem, and you don't see it. I have a blind hemmer because I'm short.
And Mom, we need to do some videos
Right.
on this because
This
you're
needs-
blind hem
Yeah,
expert.
no, it needs to be, and I'm the expert because my legs are not of average length.
And this machine works totally different from a sewing
Right.
machine, so it gives you a much
It's
better
one needle, and
result.
it's a knitted stitch. It's like a chain stitch.
And the needle goes in sideways.
Yeah,
And
needle go.
Ah!
In fact, the commercial ones have a hooked needle.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, if anybody's thinking about buying a commercial one versus a home one, and you're doing home stuff, get a home one. Don't think a commercial one, even if you get a good deal, is a good deal. They're hard to work on. They get out of whack really easy. They're bulky. They're
Hard to
cumbersome.
find. They're really heavy.
You can't find anybody to
Parts,
work on them
yeah.
sometimes. So, I used to go up to the theater, the local professional theater here, and they had this big, huge blind hemmer that was never working, and I would walk in with my little baby blind hemmer and hem everybody's.
Yeah, because yours is really lightweight. We don't,
Right.
We like to have all of our machines like out and ready to
Right.
use, and that's one that we kind of tuck off to the
We
side.
kind of push it to the
because
side a
it's
little
easy
bit.
to just
Right.
bring right back out.
It takes one thread and one needle, so it's a really cool thing.
It is, and videos to come on that.
Right.
That's gonna be a good one.
That's something I really need to do. I'm writing that down. Blind hemmer video.
We'll put it in the Trello.
So, does everybody understand?
They can't hear you right now, Mom.
Oh, they can't.
No, and we may have created some more questions.
Right.
I think there are some videos to do, and I will say that we are putting in some big time effort. We're finishing up our Easy Tea class. A lot of people have pre-ordered it, and I'd like to say thank you. But
We're also getting a video studio in place that we don't have to take up and down, which is what we're doing right now.
and we're putting in a lot of effort in fleshing out more things on our YouTube channel and on our website. So a lot of you who have asked for like the pillowcase video and the jeans hemming video, we are working on it. So we hear you. And a few, somebody went and looked at a really old YouTube video we did of those monster bookmarks.
Oh, yeah?
And they made them.
Oh, yeah.
They made
well, they're
my
really
monster
cute.
bookmarks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I really need to be we need to get on that YouTube channel and get
Absolutely.
that stuff going. So anyway, I appreciate all of your support for the Easy Tea and the requests for the videos, and we are listening, and sewing media is our passion. So we're going to be there for you.
So long and so happy.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.